Welcome everyone, and for those of you just tuning in, my name is Daniel Coleman and I'm the founder and CEO of Future Travel Experience. It is my pleasure to host this special session focusing on digitalization of the in-flight experience as an accelerator for recovery. We have developed this session in close collaboration with a key show partner and sponsor, Inmarsat Aviation. Now, COVID-19 has really accelerated digital transformation efforts of airlines around the world. But there is no doubt much more needs to be achieved on the aircraft to better support airline business models and to better support their customers, the passengers in the seats. Just imagine what could be achieved if efforts were pursued as aggressively in the cabin as they have been in terms of the incredible quantum leaps made in aircraft range and flight performance, which have truly connected the world. So this session is really going to dig into what sorts of things could be possible if the industry truly applied itself to this mission. And boy, do we have a fantastic lineup of leading industry executives for you, all of them with a deep understanding and experience on this subject. I'm delighted to introduce them all to you now very quickly. First up, we're going to hear from Phil Balaam, the president of Inmarsat Aviation. Phil is spearheading Inmarsat's efforts to transform aviation by bringing complete connectivity to every aircraft and every flight path in the world. Inmarsat are, of course, no strangers to virtual events themselves, having hosted 2 fantastic flight plan broadcasts in the last 9 months, the latest of which can be accessed in our on-demand speaker zone. Welcome, Phil. Hopefully you're finding being part of this event slightly more relaxing than having to deliver one of your own.
Thanks, Dan. Listen, yes, absolutely. So I'm just absolutely delighted to be here. I think this is a great session. I absolutely applaud the initiative and really pleased to be here with Babar and Joe. So really looking forward to a terrific session together.
Fantastic. And for an airline perspective, I'm delighted to introduce a good friend of mine, Babar Rahman, the Vice President of Global Marketing and Sponsorships and IFE for Qatar Airways. Under Babar's leadership, the airline has relaunched its IFE system, it's considerably enhanced content selection, introduced connectivity, and launched the Middle East's very first onboard Wi-Fi sponsorship. Of course, Qatar's standout achievements this year has to be its efforts to keep the Doha hub open and the world connected throughout the pandemic. And after a year when even the Olympics were postponed, we're now all turning our attention to the beautiful game of football and looking forward to the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Babar, how are you? And how many people have already started asking you to help them get World Cup tickets? And how many can I get?
Thanks, Daniel. I mean, first of all, thank you for inviting me for this session. I think it's an amazing session with a lot of, good colleagues from the industry joining it. How many people have asked me for the World Cup 2022 tickets? I mean, you are one of a few thousand.
You can't blame me for trying. But thanks for joining us. And our final speaker is also going to provide an industry first for you all, actually, because today marks the very first industry outing for Panasonic Avionics' brand new CTO, Joe Bentley. To put it mildly, Joe has a phenomenal CV, including major engineering roles at Hulu, GoPro, and Amazon. It was at Amazon where he led the launch of the Amazon Fire TV stick and then globally sensational Alexa. It'll be fascinating to hear Joe's views on digitalization of the in-flight experience and how Panasonic might adapt its approaches now he is leading the charge in this space. Welcome, Joe. You picked a hell of a time to join aviation, but we certainly welcome your fresh thinking and ideas. Despite the worst crisis in aviation history, are you settling in nicely?
I am, and really great to be here. Great to meet you all. Barbara, count me in for World Cup as well, please. I think there's some massive opportunity. I think this pause that we're taking in the industry is a time to reflect, a time to rebuild, a time to rethink about how we want to operate as an industry. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thanks again for coming. So let's get our perspectives underway. Phil, I'd like to invite you to start sharing your thoughts on the digitalization of the in-flight experience going forward.
I guess to kick things off, I have to say, wow, what a year. Where did this come from? I think it was not only totally unexpected, it started off uncertain and has just turned into a very, very long, tiring and sometimes enjoyable, sometimes difficult journey over the past year. Now, the only consolation I have is that I don't think I'm alone. In fact, there was a McKinsey study recently that I don't know how many managers they they interviewed, but they estimated that for 70% of senior management in industry today, the past 12 months have been the most difficult of their entire career, which is quite extraordinary. I think it was 2/3. But of those same people, 70% thought that the current period was probably fertile for extremely significant transformation. And this was across all industries. I suspect if you were to look at that in more detail, you'd probably seen in aviation, you'd probably see that a similar trend, even though aviation is probably still suffering with the shock of the brutality of the impacts that's fallen on the industry. I think as we've seen in other crises in other industries over the years, this type of shock, this type of disruption has inevitably led to step changes and transformation. And I think that this won't be an exception this time. I think we'll see other disruptions, financial, structural, industrial, but we will see engineering, digital transformation come to the fore. The old adage, the phrase "necessity being the mother of invention," driving change, I think is true. But technology today is the enabler for that. So I think that the driving force to get us to something new is there. Technology is the way we'll get there. Now, I would be interested to hear Babar and Joe's opinions later, but I firmly believe that we will not be able to increment our way with small changes out of the current situation. And I think that when we look at our industry and what can really make a significant difference, it's this whole question of digital with the passenger experience at heart. And that's not just a throwaway phrase. I think it will be absolutely key. And I'll try and walk us through why I believe that. Now, I see three very clear ways where I believe digital innovation, specifically in the cabin, will contribute to a recovery in the industry. The first is all around passenger confidence and trust. The second is meeting that growing expectation of the passenger for digital services. And the third, which is absolutely vital for the industry as a whole, is expanding opportunities for new value creation and monetization and new revenue streams. So firstly, how can digitalization in the cabin help with reassuring the passenger? How can that help with building trust and confidence? Well, I think we've seen recently in many of the surveys and of the expert panel discussions that we've had over the past weeks and months, trust and confidence of the passenger population will be the foundation of a return to recovery once restrictions have been removed. There's still a lot of work to be done. The IATA data shows that over 40% of passengers are still worried and still wary specifically about the risks of flying. And our own survey of more than 10,000 travelers, passengers, showed similar trends. Our survey also picked up something quite interesting, I think, is that most passengers, the vast majority of passengers, will demand and will expect reduced physical contact and reduced touch points, at least in the short term. I think this is absolutely key. And what's important is that the one thing they trust is their personal device. And whether that's a telephone or a tablet of whatever shape, I think this will become one of the keystones for many, many, many services that we will see being deployed in the years to come. And these will be keeping passengers connected, informed, and entertained. Longer term, digital in-flight capabilities will become a must-have. I'm absolutely convinced it will become a must-have. I think we were already on that journey. But what COVID-19 has done is to bring that timeline, bring that horizon forward. We have all changed the way we work. This session today is proof of that. And we continue to evolve weekly, monthly, over time. We interact and we work and we socialize differently than we did a year ago. It's crazy to imagine, but we do. And I don't think you go back to the starting point, even when we're through the other side. And in the plane, there is no reason for this to be any different. And we're starting to see this already. In our recent passenger survey, we saw that 40% of those passengers interviewed said that having high quality Wi-Fi was more important or significantly more important than it was before COVID-19. And as a very tangible, let's say, data point, the take-up rate on our European flights with our European aviation network, the take-up rates on those flights are 7 to 10 times higher they were than before COVID. So something's changed, behaviors are changing, and it's not, we've seen this consistently. So it's something that I think is very important for us to bear in mind. More importantly, and this is for our whole ecosystem as a whole, the digitalizing, and I don't like the word, but digitalizing services and the cabin for the benefit of passengers will really help us unlock value and bridge the gap to revenue for the airlines, which exists and which will continue to exist. And anything we can do to help that obviously has to be beneficial. In the short term, those revenue pools may remain significantly around access, getting connectivity itself. But this is just a start. And I think that with the COVID-19 changes around hygiene and the fact that passengers will expect to receive different services on their personal devices or through the in-flight system, that they will expect to have reduced physical contact in certain circumstances. I think that will just, this hygiene factor will just open a Pandora's box where the passenger will become, whether we like it or not, but will become more integrated with the onboard cabin system and the onboard digital services. At that stage, and I suspect that we will get there sooner than we thought, then we'll really start to see how we can unlock new smart ideas to monetize, to create new added value, and to create new revenue streams. And I know companies like Qatar are a little bit ahead of the curve here, but I think that as we get to this, as passengers start to come back after COVID, I suspect we'll see change behaviors and we'll see an acceleration of the innovation and the novelties in those areas. So before I get to the summary, how can a partner like Inmarsat support this? How can we help? How can we drive things here? And by the way, in the frame of this discussion today, that really is how Inmarsat sees itself, as a partner for the airlines and as a partner for the aviation industry as a whole. Well, and I think we can support really principally along two axes. One is innovation and one is resilience, and they are somewhat linked and they come together. And I would like to highlight that despite the current context, we have been investing extremely seriously both for today and for tomorrow. Today, a few concrete examples are the recent initiative we unveiled, which was GX North America, where with a partnership with Hughes, we'll be delivering a step change in services to North American carriers compared to legacy systems. We've also unveiled with our partner GDC a new flat panel terminal as we move into new markets. And you will have seen we have also just gone live with our GX5 satellite, which was designed, conceived, procured, and deployed specifically with aviation in mind. specifically serving the aviation hubs and the aviation corridors across Europe and the Middle East. So that's the short term. Longer term, we have a fully funded technology roadmap, which takes us not just 2, 3, 5 years down the road, but 10 years, 15 years. So both the airlines and our partners know that they can rely on it. In summary, as we do return to the skies, and hopefully with the news around vaccines and getting control over the virus, hopefully this will be sooner rather than later. But as we return to the skies, the focus will be increasingly around passenger experience, and it will be around making the passenger feel safe, making the passenger feel valued, special, taken care of. And the battle for those passengers is going to be extremely vigorous. There's going to be a need for airlines to differentiate. There's going to be a need for airlines to really go and capture those passengers with innovative services, with new services, with making the passengers feel like this is the right airline to fly with. I believe that the airlines that crack this will win, and there will be winners and there will be losers. And I suspect that the digital part, that this digitalization around the passenger will be an absolutely key contributor to this, essentially this battle for the passenger.
Thanks, Phil. I totally agree with a great deal of what you were saying there, and we'll come back to you a little bit later for follow-up questions. So now let's get the airline's user perspective from one of the world's most commercially innovative and technology-driven airlines, Qatar Airways. Babar, the in-flight world is listening, and our audience is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. I would actually like to touch base on some very good points raised by Phil, that, you know, it took the industry, you know, something like a pandemic to realize the importance of digitization. I mean, it took us something as serious as a world in a lockdown to see that, you know, how digitization is important, both from a commercial perspective, both from a brand positioning perspective, and also how to better service customers. I mean, nobody before this pandemic, or I would say majority of our industry colleagues, were not looking into digitization to that serious extent as they are now looking at and planning their future on how they can make this work, and how they can digitize even faster, at a faster pace than how they were presenting it, how they were pushing it earlier. So with that, I would just like to quickly run through a few slides. All right, so we talk about, from an IFE and connectivity perspective, that, you know, what the experience should look like. So going back to Phil's comment on that, you know, what does a high bandwidth, what does it really mean to us as an airline, or, you know, to a passenger? I mean, from an airline perspective, of course, we see that, you know, there's a 360 data integration, both on the air and on the ground. How do we offer a Wi-Fi experience which is similar to the ground? And more, as Philip rightfully said, that our passengers will be expecting that, you know, the service that they have on the ground when they're in their homes is similar to, we are able to offer similar service when they're up in the air as well. Number two is, you know, it's not only about, you know, offering a high bandwidth for the sake of offering high bandwidth. I mean, how do we also look into providing that experience to the passengers, and also see from a business perspective what other ancillary revenue streams that we can open? And then there are, of course, big operational data efficiencies that can bring in. I mean, we can see that, you know, how we can make the business travel experience even better. I mean, as we can see and speak in this forum altogether, I mean, who would have thought last year? I'm sure, Daniel, you were not planning to host this conference online completely, but, you know, that has changed the entire way businesses do business now. I mean, apart from even our industry, I mean, people have started to look into how to digitize their business models. I mean, how to be more relevant in these times and beyond, because this 1 year, I would say, has been the evolution, a major step in the evolution of how we as humans interact with technology. And really, you know, this has proven of how people and businesses have adapted to this. They had to, let's call it a forced evolution, but the forced evolution, you know, happened at the right time, I would say. But, you know, at the with the wrong, I would say, requirement. I mean, you know, the pandemic is a sad thing, but it has pushed businesses and individuals to do and think about digitization in a very separate manner. And we also look into, when it comes down to onboard experience, we want to have a seamless connected experience that we want to offer to our passengers. And what does that really mean? That means that, it's not only about when they're up in the air, it's also about how do we provide them a seamless connected journey. People, after coming out of this pandemic and, with the news about vaccines hopefully coming out soon, and, we have just seen, a recent vaccine approval as of last week. The UK has approved, using Pfizer, and more are on the way, I'm sure. We have seen that, hopefully this pandemic is going to go away, but what will not change is the behavior of passengers of what they've developed during the pandemic. We as an airline, we've been flying throughout this entire period. We have had very strong leadership, which committed to our passengers, which committed to transporting them to their homes, to their loved ones. And with that, what we have gained is something very essential, which is experience. That what do people expect coming out of this pandemic? Because we never stop. So we know exactly what people want, and what people want is a touchless, seamless, digitized journey. From booking to check-in to traveling on board and to getting off, to their destinations, and having this entire journey connected in their own mobile handset. So with that, what this will bring is, is basically what we call key differentiator. For airlines to survive and stand out from the crowd, because out of this pandemic, and our leadership also said this a few times, and even Philip, I agree with you that there will be some winners and there will definitely be some losers. The winners are going to be the one who are going to be differentiating their product. They're going to bring more seamless digital experience, bring your own device engagement, increase revenue and monetization. Everybody, when travel comes back fully, will be fighting to get that passenger on that seat. And that passenger will only choose you as a brand, as an airline, that you're able to provide a seamless journey. The leisure and business travelers will seamlessly want a connected experience. And faster Wi-Fi will be very important, because all this time what people have been doing is sitting at home watching Netflixes and other streaming services. So when they get on board, this is exactly what they will expect from an entertainment perspective. Businesses would want to have that connected experience throughout, a seamless, connected, uninterrupted experience. And that will be really important as some of the key differentiating points, if you want to stand out as a brand amongst your competition. Seamless experience, we touched on that. What does that mean? Integration of within the airline infrastructure, our reservation systems, gate-to-gate connected experience, which will be paramount. We don't want people to be disconnected when an aircraft is taking off the ground or landing in a certain destination, unless there are, of course, obligatory restrictions. Then you have to follow them. Otherwise, you'll have a very gate-to-gate connected experience, which we, in partnership with Inmarsat as well, we are able to offer that currently on a majority of our fleet at the moment. And then alignment with your loyalty programs, personalization opportunities is something which is going to be really important. That's what people want. They want an experience which is personalized to them. And without sufficient availability of bandwidth on board or on the ground, this will be impossible to offer. And hence, it's very important that this technological advancement of giving higher bandwidth on board is also going to provide us the opportunity to provide a more personalized journey. And then, of course, it is all a huge investment. Philip is very well aware of that how much we as an airline invest and how much Inmarsat has to invest in their infrastructure to provide us the service that we require. Which means that, we want to bring in more ancillary revenue opportunities by having more sponsorship-based revenue, bringing in more advertising opportunities, and also giving that connected experience on board for people to shop, without any interruptions. And we create a digital marketplace and also an omni-channel cloud integration for personalized recommendation. This will be absolutely critical, for any passenger who will be traveling on board. Yet how is that experience personalized to them? And hence the high-speed bandwidth, which we also currently offer in partnership with Inmarsat. It's even going to go above and beyond where we stand today. And we are going to, and currently I must say that, we have got over 107 aircraft as of this conversation, which are connected on high-speed super Wi-Fi And I'm also happy to say that within the Asia region, we have been one of the only airlines which are able to offer that high-speed broadband service to our passengers, and also give them that seamless experience that they expect, and also create a whole bunch of ancillary opportunities for us as a business. And of course, then we last come to big data. I mean, operational efficiencies, smart maintenance, predictive smart maintenance, safe weather guidances, flight route optimizations, demand forecasting, and also customer segmentation and differential pricing strategy, which will be important for us when a passenger is traveling on board. Imagine somebody's traveling from Sydney to London, and on a stop over Doha, you're able to offer them exactly an upgrade at the right point of time, and they're searching for such exclusive offers. And also enhance our data analytics and also reporting structure. And all this is made possible with a decent infrastructure on board. Digitization can only occur when the backend possibilities exist. And with us, it's very important that high-speed internet data is available on board for us to enable all these elements that our passengers or that any passenger for that matter would basically be expecting in this new world that we live in. So with that, of course, also integrate a 360 environment for our customers, data integration with passenger profile, personalized and proactive customer service. Targeted marketing is really important in this noisy world these days, which is even going to get noisier as we come out of the pandemic. Every brand, every airline is going to be pushing their brand to get that customer on their aircraft. And personalized service recovery tool, this is absolutely critical for us, and also real-time transactions, which is highly critical given that passengers these days, especially using their own device, would want to have the capabilities to purchase either an upgrade or a retail or hotel in the next destination, and transportation, so on and so forth. And we're able to offer them that capability to have those transactions in real time. So with that, I would just say that digitization is absolutely critical for us as a business, as an airline, and that's why we have invested heavily in this infrastructure. We are continuously investing in this infrastructure, as you would have seen in our news recently, that we are one of the, as I said previously as well, that we are we're only one of the few airlines in the Asia region, which are able to offer you a super Wi-Fi connected fleet, broadband, and then give you a true high-speed experience, which is even going to get enhanced further as our partnership grows, as more of our aircraft become connected on this service. So with that, I will thank you, Daniel, and have you move to your next. And I'll be personally will be very interested to see what John has to say.
Yeah, thank you, Baba. That was as thought-provoking as I expected it would be. So yes, so let's head now to California to hear from Panasonic Avionics' new CTO, Joe Bentley. So in your previous job, Joe, you put an Alexa in a huge number of households around the world. What are you hoping to achieve for the airline seat? Our audience is yours.
Well, first off, I'd like to say that I'm thrilled that I see a lot of similar thinking from Barbara and Philip. You'll see some elements in my presentation in a minute that speak to some of the same themes. I am taking more of a longer view on this. I think we will get past this pandemic and we will move on. And I think we need to think about what is the experience we want to create for the passengers of the world. And it's changing. And so today I wanted to talk a little bit about how that's changing. So I've got a presentation here. Let me go ahead and present now.
Yes, it's coming up.
Great. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about digital transformation and a little bit of a longer view on where we're going. So, first off, as you mentioned, I'm new to the airline industry, and I spent most of my career building entertainment media products for fanatics, started long before that, but it's been from developing Fire TV and Alexa for Amazon to shipping GoPro's 360 Fusion cameras, and most recently coming from Hulu, driving Hulu to become the largest live linear OTT service in the US. And Today, I'm really excited to talk to you about our opportunity to engage passengers in a truly transformative way. And so before we talk about how, I want to make sure we get on the same page about what is digital transformation. And so according to Wikipedia, digital transformation is the adoption of digital technology to transform services through replacing non-digital or manual processes with digital processes, or replacing new digital, older digital tech with newer digital tech. So now that we're on the same page, if you read the countless books on digital transformation, they all start the same way, and they start with step one: identify your transformation objectives. So let's look at that objective. So what do passengers want to engage with on an aircraft? Or for that fact, in their living room at home, what captivates their attention? So pre-COVID, we saw 4.7 billion passengers across our industry. And those 4.7 billion people engaged in 1.2 trillion minutes. That was a lot of engagement. That was a ton of opportunity. And we can guess what they do. If it was movies or video games or maybe a book. As Barbara pointed out, we're going to need some data. And there lies our digital transformation objective: engagement. So let's talk about how to engage. Let's talk about content. So in January 1996, after launching Internet Explorer, Bill Gates famously wrote the essay, "Content is King." And it was the realization that money was not going to be made like Netscape selling web browsers and web servers to companies. Instead, quote, "Content is where I expect the real money is going to be made on the internet." And he was right. And with the boom of the internet, content has changed. Theatrical content is no longer the only thing that consumers want. The formats have changed, the interactions have changed, the distribution has changed, and even Hollywood has changed. Digital distribution is booming. OTT is on fire. The entertainment industry is in a global streaming war, and Baby Yoda is winning. On Tuesday, Disney Plus was named both the Android and iOS app of the year. And Disney Plus has onboarded 75 million paying subscribers in 1 year. Yet the question is, are we the old multiplex theater on Main Street? Will we be an industry left behind? And so what I want you to think about is the formats are changing. Millennials are flocking to new formats. App Annie says that next month, TikTok will not only join the 1 billion monthly active user club along with Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and WeChat. They predict that TikTok will sail past to 1.2 billion monthly active users. And no content presentation wouldn't be complete without talking about Fortnite, the gaming phenomenon that's taken over the world. And since bursting on the scene in 2017, Fortnite has amassed 350 million players. This gaming phenomenon has grown so fast that recently Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, said that, quote, "We don't compete." He says, "We compete and lose to Fortnite more than HBO." And he was talking about engagement minutes. And so Fortnite is making an impact on the music industry as well. So consider the enormity of the live Travis Scott concert on Fortnite this year. This was a live music concert on a gaming platform, a completely brand new concept in a new format. 46 million people watched, listened, danced virtually, and another 200 million watched on YouTube. This event led to the #1 music debut and track of the year. So let's talk about something bigger. Let's talk about live sports. And I'm thrilled that The World Cup is coming, and Qatar is hosting. So, but consumers flock to live sports more than any other type of content. Super Bowl, World Cup, the Olympics. And today, over 100 million passengers watch live global news and sports channels. But what's more impressive is 70% of passengers on aircrafts with the Sports 24 service watched the Super Bowl, and 80% watched the World Cup final. And the 2018 World Cup was nuts. Passengers danced in the aisles on Emirates Airlines. We need more celebration like this again on flights. Live sports creates an experience, a togetherness like no other entertainment can do. And so we can talk all day about digital content, but let's switch gears a minute and talk about how to transform. Let's talk about data. We need data to understand how passengers are engaging, insights about what they're watching, they're playing, they're reading, if our ads or our shopping is effective. We need usage trends, recommendations, experimentation, forecasting. We're going to need DNN machine learning to put the right content in front of the right passenger to optimize those 1.4 trillion engagement minutes. And to complete our digital transformation, we're going to need to monetize. For example, at Panasonic Avionics, we've learned some amazing facts on our One Media ad platform. Some of those were 92% of passengers can recall an ad well served in flight. 90% of passengers are influenced by advertising in their purchasing decisions. And 49% of passengers change their mind about a product after a personalized recommendation. So to drive a truly engaging digital transformation, you need to pick a platform that can deliver content, a platform that can deliver data, a platform that can deliver revenue. So I'm really excited to be here. It's a little bit of food for thought, but let's take the long view here as well as we think through this pandemic. And back to you.
Thanks, Joe. Fantastic presentation, and I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I was very pleased to see Baby Yoda in there. So good job. I think all of those presentations have set the scene perfectly for the panel discussion we want to have from here. So we're going to move into some fast-moving discussions on some key questions that we've put together for you. So why don't we start with a question for all of you, and maybe Phil, if you can go first on this. So getting passenger confidence back right now is so paramount, and how do you guys feel that digitalization of the in-flight experience can help rebuild passenger confidence post-COVID-19? Phil?
I think there are a couple of different angles on this. One is the very physical, touchy-feely side, where passengers are clearly expecting less touch points and less physical contact. They want as much of the service delivery to be done virtually, digitally, and preferably with their personal device. That's on the physical well-being side. There is another side which is more psychological, which is they want to be informed, they want to be kept up to date, they want information, they want to be able to communicate. And these other needs, which are less physical but also very powerful, I think are absolutely key. And the digitalization in the cabin will, I think, addresses both, or has the potential to address both of those.
Agreed. Baba, what's your thoughts on that point?
Thanks, Dan. I mean, look, as I said earlier, that we've been one airline that have been flying throughout the pandemic. What we have gained from that is experience, and that experience tells us that digitalization is going to be absolutely important. And as rightfully Philip said, that it's people want a seamless digital experience whereby they're touching things as less as possible, from check-in to essentially check-out. And it's going to be absolutely critical to offer that to our passengers, because it's just going to become the new norm of how people will want to choose the airline of choice, or how will people choose to travel. So it is absolutely critical that this is something which is going to be paramount for all brands within our industry and beyond, that how do they digitize their business.
Absolutely. Joe, do you have some thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, we've been partnering and trying to help our airline customers on a number of solutions, from companion apps to onboard readers and surveys, and even we've got some things we're working out in the distance around active touch, active surfaces, and that are easier to clean, even our non-OE capability. I believe that will help in the short term basis and rebuild confidence. I'm really excited to hear the news as vaccines are coming. And in the end, I mean, as I talked about a few minutes ago, is that I do think we need to focus on engagement, because customers have choices, and we need to build a compelling, engaging environment for passengers. And so I think it's important not just to think on the short term, but also think long term. What is that engaging experience as customers come back in? I think there's just a lot of pent up demand to get back out there and visit family and go on vacation. So that's what I'd like to encourage folks to think about.
I agree, and I think this is a time where passengers want information, right? And I think connectivity and other things on board, people want access to information more than ever about where they're going to and things like that, which I think just putting passengers at ease is so important right now, and I think that's a really important point. Obviously, financial recovery for the industry right now is so important, and digitalization of the cabin, I think, could play a big part in that. And I'd maybe like to ask Phil and Joe about this from a supplier perspective. What new business models and approaches do you think digitalization of the cabin could bring to financial recovery for airlines? Phil, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I suspect that you'll see different airlines look at this in different ways. But at the end of the day, I think that some of them may take longer to get to the same conclusions, but they will all come to the same conclusions, is that they will inevitably need additional pools of added value. And I mean, you can't just create revenue. You need to create value somewhere. And you can't create that out of nothing. You need something to do that. So if you don't put the hard yards and investment and the thinking and the effort in, it's very difficult to create that value. But I think that at the end of the day, all of the airlines are going to. We will all come out of this crisis, different. There will be a revenue gap. It's clear. A lot of the operating costs remain in place. A lot of the fixed costs remain in place. The pressure on bridging that gap is going to be enormous. It might not be the initial focus for all of the airlines, but they're all going to have to get there. And so I think that the whole idea of value creation and then correctly monetizing that, and I think that Balaam made some great points earlier on that whole customer journey, and then Joe's comments on the engagement, that's going to be key. It doesn't come by accident. If you don't put the tools and the content and the systems in place to do that, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Agreed. And Joe, with some sort of fresh outside of the industry perspective, do you see any new business model opportunities perhaps in the cabin with digitalization?
I do quite a bit. And, agreeing with Philip, both with what Barbara was speaking about of the entire customer journey and looking at data, and but also, it's really about, it is about engaging with the customer. And the point I was making is around, if you consider those 1.4 trillion engagement minutes, That represents opportunity around advertising. It represents an incredible amount of opportunity, considering if you look at other forms of media. As I started to look at this industry coming into it, and as I got the early conversations, I realized that we have one of the last untapped screens in any market. And if we put the right engaging experience in front of passengers, it shouldn't be difficult to monetize. And this should be able to help the entire industry close that gap. But we're going to need to modernize, and we're going to need to bring new types of experiences in, because customers are doing that today. They're bringing in their PEDs, they're bringing in their devices, and if we're not providing that, we're going to miss that opportunity. So,
yeah, good to hear. I totally agree with you. And Phil mentioned a little bit earlier about some trends he's already seen about passenger behavior changing on the planes already since COVID. And obviously, Baba, you've been flying a lot of passengers, a lot more than most airlines since this pandemic has broke out. I mean, could you tell us a little bit more about what you've seen in terms of passenger behavior changing? And has there been a big switch to passengers using their own mobile devices to control their experience in the way that they're using devices to control IFEC, perhaps, or that kind of thing? Are you seeing some big changes already?
Yes, Daniel. I mean, one very non-surprising thing that we saw is that our usage of people connected on board while traveling increased dramatically. It's jumped almost double to what it was on pre-COVID situation. So we do know that people are getting connected more on board. They want to be connected more on board. And they are using more of their personal devices than they used to before. I mean, somebody on a 16-hour journey, we saw that is connected perhaps 3/4 of the time on board through their mobile devices. So we do know that yes, that the passenger behavior is indeed changing, or has already changed. In fact, because I mean the experience they're getting on the ground, they want it on board as well. And what is going to be critical moving forward is that how do we plan to continuously offer more content and deliver more entertainment options or connectivity options to their own pet devices? Because moving forward, as I said, it's no longer a question of has it changed? Yes, I mean that question. Let's get it out of the window. The passenger behavior has changed. Period. So I mean, how do we adapt as an airline to deliver to that requirement? I'm very happy to say that we are very well equipped today. I mean, with where we stand, especially in terms of what we offer on board with some of our partners. I'm very happy to say that we have constantly flown, and that is really I must thank our leadership for taking that decision, because it has helped us really gauge what our passengers are looking for, and also deliver that through seamless internet connectivity, which we never stop on board. We have been constantly providing that service. We never switched off our super Wi-Fi. I mean, Philip as my witness. We've been paying Philip, as required for the services offered. So I mean, we have seen that. I know when this analytics came through to us, I mean, it was really surprising in a very pleasing way that that passenger behavior is changing. Our internet usage has gone up, and people are using more. People are actually craving more digital experience than they were used to before, and we just want to position in that. I mean, of course, there are strategies that we have now enhanced of how quickly we're able to offer that capability to pets, and what else are we able to offer as and when the bandwidth and the pipe becomes even stronger on board.
So might it change your plans for IFEC equipment and content going forward with these changes? And to you, Joe, might it change your strategy towards the Panasonic portfolio of products going forward with this change of behavior? Maybe Baba, you can go first.
Go for it.
So yes, number one, absolutely. And I must say that we even predicted this before the pandemic hit us. We knew that that's a very gradual curve before pandemic, but after the pandemic, you would see just a skyrocket curve that yes, people have just jumped onto that even quicker. So with our partners, I mean, with Panasonic included, I mean, like we have been working very intensively on bringing that experience on board. And as I said, that I mean, this is even something that we had planned before the pandemic hit us. It's just that with the pandemic now in play, hopefully over soon, we'll be able to implement that much quicker than anybody else on a true international global front.
And Joe?
Yeah, I'd say from Panasonic, we don't. I don't think it's changed our strategy. We've always have been looking at trying to create a strategy where customers or passengers have choice, that they can get an entertainment, a monetization, an information experience, whether they're on a PED or on a IFE device, and that it's a consistent experience as well. I think because customers do want choice and they want to be able to switch back and forth, they might find that a preference in this case recently around COVID has been really a health consideration, and that's a challenge to us. How do we create a more compelling, a more higher value experience for us at Panasonic with our devices for seat backs? Because I mean, there's opportunity there as well. We need to up our bar as far as the quality experience and the innovation there as well. I'd say one of the exciting things coming in to Panasonic is we have a long history, 40 years of building entertainment devices. We've done many experiments over the years. When you walk into our lobby, you can see we've even built partnerships with Nintendo and others in bringing gaming devices in. And I'm challenging the team to look at those. What are those experiences that are going to engage passengers? And how do we? That's our job to be able to both, so customers do have choice from their own personal device to the seatback solutions that we need to provide as well to our customers.
Very good. And I was going to ask you a question about whether digital transformation was paramount to the recovery. I think we know already that you guys are totally believers in that. So let's move into another question related to it, which is looking ahead, what are the key technologies that the panel believe will truly have the most impact on revolutionizing the passenger experience and operational performance in the cabin of the future? And maybe Phil and Joe, I'll ask you that one because I've got a big question after that for you, Baba. So Phil, do you want to go first on that?
Yeah, it's maybe I'm going to disappoint you. I'm not actually going to give you a technology. What I think we need is to make it invisible to the customer, to the passenger. It just needs to be seamless and integrated. It's not there. They shouldn't know whether they have a satellite connection or whether they're going, they've got a connection to the ground or to the moon or wherever. They should just get on, and for whatever the service is, just get on and feel it, experience it, use it. So any technological steps and breakages that you can introduce, disruption that you can introduce to make that invisibility from a passenger standpoint, it's clearly important from the airline, but from the passenger standpoint, I think is key.
Good point. Joe, do you want to comment on that as a tech man?
I do. I mean, I believe in exactly what Philip said, that it is. It's not about the tech. Content is king. It starts with content. What do people want to engage with? When people think about how they want to relax, they don't think about the piece of technology they're engaging with. They're thinking about what do they want to watch, what do they want to play with, what do they want to read. Technology is something that fades to the background. It's the foundation that provides the delivery mechanism. And so we as technologists need to think about how do we create that seamless, effortless, frictionless environment for them so they can connect. When I think about where the industry is going and things that get me really excited is, there's a lot of innovation coming in connectivity. You think about like the LEO satellites coming and the hope around the increase in bandwidth the lower latency experiences that will come about around that. That's exciting. The more connectivity we can bring in the environment, the more we can create the environment so it's like what you can get in your own living room. That's going to be exciting, and then that's going to bring new content experiences into the cabin, and people can enjoy their journey.
Very good. Okay, Baba, I've got a bit of a tough one for you here to see how you like this. So just how far are airlines going to have to stretch in this new world to create margins? I mean, will they really have to become digital businesses that just happen to fly planes, as we've heard people talk about before? Or will they have to sell, a huge range of other products and services throughout the day of travel to deliver profits? We've seen AirAsia starting to take that kind of approach. What's your take on that?
I thought you were going to ask me a tough question, Daniel. All right. So, look, number one, airlines who have not already been on the digital bandwagon pretty much do not deserve to be an airline anymore. I mean, as you said, airlines, regardless of, airline is what we provide is a service, is a product. But in essence, we are a digital business. Airlines will have to become a digital business in order to survive in this new age. If nobody has caught up to that, and if they have not been on this bandwagon already, pretty much you will see, on the, I go back to Philip's reference, there'll be winners, there'll be losers. So who has not been on this digital front, I'm really certain, which bucket they're going to fall under. So, I mean, in this age, well, travel is still a couple of years away to be back to pre-COVID numbers. It is not if or how or if we should do it. It's become essential, if not critical, for airlines to do business differently than what they used to do. They need to become a digital business because that's how passengers and customers are going to be seeing airlines as. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a commodity, right? It's at the end of the day, you're giving a seat. Yeah, there's a product, there's a service, but at the end of the day, you are becoming that digital business of how relevant you are to the passenger. And more airlines, we're going to get on this bandwagon, which means competition is going to be tough because travel is not going to get back to normal anytime soon, which definitely means that you have to be at the forefront. And to be at the forefront, you have to digitize your entire business, and hence it's critical that airlines do start thinking differently than how they used to think before. And I must say that from our perspective, we are very lucky with the kind of leadership we have. We invested a lot on this front, and I would really say that we are really at the forefront of this race.
Well, that was emphatic. Put me in my place there, didn't you, Baba? Good, but I like your message. I think it's the right one. And Phil and Joe, do you have any perspectives on that? Do you think we're going to see airlines selling lots of very, very different products and services than we might have seen them do before in the future?
Go ahead, Joe.
I mean, I'm new to the industry, so it's hard for me to speak about the industry as a whole as this. But from being a newbie here, I do. I think what we need to think about is, each, like Qatar and each airline needs to think about that experience that they're bringing to the passenger. If you think about, we were talking a minute ago about people bringing PEDs into the device, and that's something you're bringing from your home into that, and there's a lost opportunity when that happens. Barbara mentioned kind of a bad word of commodity. We don't, as an industry, don't want to be a commodity where we just provide connectivity and you show up with your own devices and that's it. When that happens, we lose a monetization opportunity. We lose an opportunity to engage. We lose an opportunity to create an experience. And one of the magical things when you fly in an aircraft is that experience. And so many of the airline partners that I've flown with, it is a really amazing experience when you get into a cabin and the entertainment's available and the seat and the food and it's a journey that you're taking. And I think we need to focus on that. And we can't lose sight of that. If we just flip on the Wi-Fi and let them bring their device, you can do that on a bus or in your home, or my kids do it every day in their room and trying to get them off their devices. And I think we need to look beyond that, and we need to focus on creating experiences and engaging and monetizing. So,
yeah, I completely echo that, and I think Joe, you touched on a word that came up in the recent forum that we had with Apex, and the word was magic. And I think it was on a panel maybe, and we finished up by talking about the wish list for the future. And one of the panelists said, "Well, I just really wish that we get the magic of travel and the magic of flying back again." And I think that really is. I think you hit the spot there, Joe. It does feel different when you take a flight. There is something different. You are being transported in a very different way. So yeah, I completely agree.
And in closing, is digitalization the secret key to creating that magic, gentlemen? Is that what we'd all concur as a final message for our audience here? Baba.
It is one of the key ingredients to make that magic happen.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see passengers, dancing on the flight while they're watching World Cup on the way to Qatar. I mean, that's what we want to see again. We want to see more of that, and it's just so wonderful when people can experience a form of entertainment and really connect with other passengers. That's the world we want to create again and get back to. And I think we and the world is yearning for that. So I think I'm happy to partner with everybody here in the industry to create that experience again. So.
Yeah, well, I'd just say absolutely. I mean, the alchemy of making someone feel special isn't necessarily simple, but the digital part is going to be. I mean, if you don't have it, you won't be able to do that moving forward. It's not enough, but if you don't have it, there's just no way you'll get there.
People never forget how you make them feel, right?
Right.
And that's the answer. Well, look, I could have talked to you guys all day. I found that fascinating, and I really do appreciate your time, Joe, Baba, and Phil. I really, really do appreciate that. And I certainly learned a lot and was inspired by it, and I'm sure our audience out there were too. So thank you so much for your participation. And we have another break between our conference sessions now, so why not use this as an opportunity to visit our exhibition hall and check out the inspirational booths from our long list of pioneering exhibitors like Inmaster, who have their team on standby to share with you their latest solutions and news. In terms of our next sessions, I think you'll be interested to know that at 7 o'clock GMT PM, we have a session led by Paul Harper, who was previously at Air New Zealand and responsible for IFEC for them, on navigating content disruption, which has a brilliant lineup, including representatives from WestJet and BBC Studios talking about this content is king in the new reality that Joe was referencing. So be sure to check that out, and thank you so much for your attention.